Sir, I just got a partial podcast reading here. It cut off. I don't know whether to upload it or not. Mike?
Mike, this is Matt. Listen to me.
Where are you?
Don't worry about where I am. You cannot proceed. There are other podcasts out there that can handle this. Now, you can't be influenced by the buddies or anybody else. You got to make up your own mind.
Estimated time to podcast upload, 3 minutes and counting.
Mike, listen, don't do this. Don't do this. Once you upload, it cannot come down. It cannot come down, and you know the repercussions if we're wrong. God damn it. Mike, if we upload now, we'll be uploading while we're blind and crippled. You understand me?
Where the fuck are you?
Do not press that upload button. Do not upload, Mike. It's up to you. You're the only one that can upload. It's up to you, Mike. It's up to you.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10.
I look shorter than you. I look like you're a little baby.
Yeah, why is that? It's like... Matt, we...
Yep. You said there was no relation to this, but I kind of found a theme.
Yeah.
It's like into the unknown week a little bit.
And both of them take place on boats for part of the time.
Yeah. Water woot.
And by both, I mean Threshold, the series, and Crimson Tide.
The movie.
The game.
Crimson Tide, the series. Well, if they made it now, it would have been a series.
Yeah.
20 hours of fury. So, I guess before we get into anything, how did you hear about Threshold?
I just one day was looking at Brent Spiner's filmography to see if there's stuff that I hadn't seen in there.
Yeah, I've done that before.
That's literally how it... And I didn't hear about the show when it came out, so it wasn't on my radar, but it is now.
What about Crimson Tide?
Crimson Tide, I saw the Saturday it came out. My dad took me
when
I was 12, and it made quite an impression on me.
They cut a splash. I've never heard of this film, but we also didn't see a ton of films. We saw, it's weird, we saw the big ones that became pop culture kind of movies, except for my dad saw Men in Black 2 in theaters, and we're like,
ooh,
yeah. It's probably why we don't go to the theaters anymore.
Ruined it.
And but we didn't really go that often to theaters, but it's kind of sad that I never saw it in theaters, because it's definitely one of those films that should be a pop culture deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was so... I was 12, so I could handle it, but it was so intense. I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to have a heart attack. By the end, it's
12-year-old heart attack. Your heart's just now getting used to doing its job, and then it's I'm having an attack! So, you want to just launch into the first one here?
Yeah.
Okay. Threshold week.
Had you heard of this show?
No. Which is weird because, I guess it's not too weird because, it's another thing that Brandon Braga had his hands in, producing, but, of, Star Trek fame and other stuff like that. But, it's, Brent Spiner and Peter Dinklage, Brent Spiner, after he'd done his probably biggest, most well-known work with Master of Disconnect. Was this before or after that?
I think this was right after.
Right after, okay. Yeah. But it's him as Data, and then Peter Dinklage.
I thought you were going to say before his finest role.
Before Lord, Data, har. And Peter Dinklage before he was on Game of Thrones, so he had little parts. He had
paging Dr. Freud,
bit parts here and there, but
yeah, I mean, this cast is pretty awesome because Carla Gugino, she's a movie star too.
Movie.
And
I know that there's other people that are in this too. I'd seen the director in other stuff. I don't know what, but the one dude that's the I guess he's the military guy that's in charge of security or whatever. Like I've seen him in other stuff too. I don't know who the other like nerd was, but
I don't know. I didn't recognize him.
Not that he wasn't, I was like, he's a nobody. But essentially, a team of experts are assembled after the U.S. Navy discovers an extraterrestrial object briefly appeared near a ship in the Atlantic Ocean.
So did you watch both parts of this 2-part pilot?
Odyssey? I watched the first part, and I watched like most of the second part, and I never got around to watching the rest of the second part. Not because I hated it, but I felt like it was weird that they did kind of like a cliffhanger on the first part when, honestly, like if I was going to do an hour, like a 2-parter like that and make it long, I would have made like some sort of alien reveal be like the cliffhanger, not she's about to be killed a cliffhanger, because I was kind of like, I don't know, to me I was in it mainly for like Data to see what he was doing, and like Peter Dinklage a little bit, but like Peter Dinklage played like the Iron Man Tony Stark character in this, like he was like a playboy, but like it was kind of weird.
Spiner's character is just kind of a jerk.
He's kind of an asshole in this. Like he plays like a scientist that has like 3 ex-wives, and he does his job, but he doesn't seem to like doing what he's doing. Which, I mean, this ran for 2 seasons or something like that.
Yeah, I think 1.5 maybe.
So because they didn't air the last 4 episodes. But I guess they had it on Friday nights, but then they moved it to Tuesday to boost ratings, and it backfired. The show got canceled because of it. So it was nothing to do with apparently the show, even though I don't think this is like a perfect show by any means. I think the premise is definitely really interesting. I don't know. What did you think?
I only watched the first part of the 2-parter, and then I was like, I'm out.
You weren't really missing anything in the second part, because it was a bunch of like added, like a bunch of other stuff that they could have squeezed all of it into the first episode. Like it was a bunch of standing around talking stuff. And
I didn't hate it by any means. I didn't think it was bad. It was kind of generic and boring, I thought.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I had against this is like, not only was like the way it was presented generic and boring, but like the way everybody dressed was generic and boring. It was just like,
it's like very gray, dull colors.
Yeah, when like Brent Spiner was wearing a suit, like a thing, it was like everybody looked like they were wearing their dad's hand-me-downs. Like they were way too big. I
appreciated the cast.
Yes, sure, I mean, that's honestly one of the only reasons why I stayed as long as I did, because they were great. It's like most things, 99% of the time when I have a complaint, it's never with the people that are acting in it. But like, I thought that I'd loaded up the wrong thing, which I guess you did. But I thought I did because at the beginning they're playing some random song. It's like, but it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the show, and it's not the theme song. So it's just some random, when they show this like cartoon boat or whatever. It's not cartoon, but it looks CG. Yeah. I don't know if it was or not, but
that's why I guess this show doesn't have an official release, or the official release like
it's because of all
the music.
Yeah,
that they didn't get the license to.
Yeah, because there's like she has like so there's the main character is this like, what is she, like a contingency plan person? So she has made she's a genius, I guess, and she's made all these contingency plans for, CDC and this and that. Like, say there's an outbreak, this is, and this is for first contact. The plan's called Threshold. So she's going home, and like it randomly starts playing, "Give a little bit, get a little bit of my life for you," and it plays like a lot of the song as she's going about her like thing by like Supertramp, and I'm like as soon as you said that, I'm like, yeah, that's probably why, because it's like the licensing would be a fucking nightmare.
Right.
They'd have to literally edit all the songs out.
But I didn't realize something was wrong on the version I watched until Charles S. Dutton started talking.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not his, like, what the hell? Did they dub him?
Yeah, so like you want to? I guess you were watching a version that someone had uploaded on YouTube that they had just sped, or not sped up, but they had pitched up everything. But at the beginning, they pitched down the fucking first song, which I was like, I guess that was to avoid copyright strike. But the one I watched was on YouTube as well, and it had no copyright strikes, and it was just regular. So, YouTube's weird about that anyway. So
yeah.
She has like a Frenchie dog, which I thought that was a cute dog, but yeah, I don't know. I think just overall, like
this was kind of a swing and a miss for me, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and I didn't really enjoy even Brent Spiner's character. I mean, he was doing fine.
He was very unlikable.
Yeah, and it was just a weird choice to make this dude like such a jerk. But
he also like it felt like he didn't have like a lot to do. Like he wasn't even one of the people that like got exposed to anything. He was like
he would just like chime in the background every now and then.
Yeah, he was literally like what's her name? The doctor on The Next Generation, Beverly Crusher. Mm-hmm. He was just there to like fix an issue.
Eye candy.
Yeah. his flowing like open shirt under a regular long sleeve shirt that was way too big for him. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Everybody's like
the late '90s.
Yeah, everybody watched wear that stupid shit.
Yeah,
or not wore, not weared.
Yeah,
they weared. What'd you think of like the CGI in this?
Not very good. I mean, it's fine for a network TV show, I guess, at the time, but
it's weird because I definitely have seen worse, but I've definitely seen better for that time. Yeah. So like, I think that's the thing is it's like it wasn't bad enough to make it like hilarious to talk about, but it wasn't good enough to like praise really. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like I watched it, I gave it a chance in the second episode, and was just kind of like, sadly, I'm not going to keep watching this because
it won't make
it's
the cut.
Just not interesting. And I feel like that's the way it is with a lot of like sci-fi. Sometimes it's like, especially during that era, it's just like they just like they had an interesting premise, like an alien contact, and they're trying to like figure out what it is, almost like an X-Files kind of thing where they have proof, like more than X-Files where they have proof and stuff. But it's like they spent too much time. Like they had that idea and then they like pad it out with all this extra dog shit that like nobody cares about.
Yeah,
like the whole thing with like people being taken over by this alien force was kind of like, as soon as that happened, I felt like this is going to be the whole season. I bet, as people are going to be infected and they have to track them down. I don't know if that's what it is, but I'm sick of that. Like
that's like the cheapest and laziest way to depict an alien. Yeah, like it just takes over someone.
Yeah, it takes over somebody, and it's also like, yeah, instead of like having to do something interesting or come up with anything interesting, it's literally you're tracking these things down the whole time.
Yep.
It's like, oh my god, dude.
There are lots of fans of this show. Like I was reading comments on Amazon and stuff.
Oh, really?
And it's like most underrated show ever. Like I can't believe the show was canceled. It was so great. So I'm glad that some people really like it.
Maybe like if I had watched it at the time, I maybe would have, like maybe I'd be like, you know, definitely. I mean, my tastes have changed over time, and also like stuff that back in the day I was like, hell yeah, and I've gone back and watched like that we used to like. I'm like, yeah, this isn't as good as I thought it was, but at the same time, like things have changed, like as far as like, you know, the way things are shot too, so it definitely has that look to it. So yeah, trying to see if there's like anything that was really stand out in my notes here. So like they had like a jump scare at the end. It's like she closes a fridge door and like a dude standing behind it. Were you there that time when my grandma was standing behind the door and it scared the shit out of you? That's the thing I thought.
That was like a textbook jump scare in real life.
You were like going through the fridge.
Because if you open your fridge door, it blocks the entranceway to the other room. Yeah. And it was dark. And there was no one there when I opened it. And when I closed it, your grandma was standing there and I was like, yeah! Real life, it was just like a movie. She
didn't do anything.
She was just up,
standing there,
seeing what was going on.
And you were like, nightmare.
Like, I'm in a movie.
But I don't know why that's what I thought of when that happened. So it's like, some stuff at the end with the glass forest. I didn't really give a shit about this.
No.
It looked like dog fucking dinner.
Yeah, it looked like Kid Pix animation.
Yeah. And then the dog goes into like Speed Force and like scared the shit out of me because they had this thing which is hallucinating, and I'm like, dude, this is just, yeah. So I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about this.
Nope. Not bad.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like
Not good.
offensive.
Average.
It was just kind of like disappointing, if
Yeah.
anything.
Not the hidden gem I was hoping for.
Well, you never know. It's like, you know,
It's worth a shot.
Some shows and movies can be carried by like one person, and sometimes they can't. So,
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready to move on to the feature presentation for this
Oh yeah.
week? Crimson Tide. Okay, so this movie came out in '95. It's an action thriller film directed by Tony Scott and produced by Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer. Very cool. So the film focuses on a clash of wills between the seasoned commanding officer, Gene Hackman, and his new executive officer, XO, Denzel Washington, arising from conflicting interpretations of an order to launch their missiles. Parallels the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's not an incomplete message. It's a message fragment.
Yeah.
So what'd you think? You'd never seen this before, right?
No, I'd actually never even heard of this film before.
Wow.
Wow. It's weird because, yeah, like, I like Denzel Washington, I like Gene Hackman, but, like, I haven't really seen a lot of their films.
Man, this must have been right up your alley.
Yeah, it was. It's funny because I'm not really into, like, I don't know, it's funny because it's funny, it's real funny, laughing, I dare you. It's one of those deals where I don't know if I would have, like, sought out a movie like this, like a military thing on my own, but, like, now maybe I'm starting to rethink that because, like, this was, like, I don't know, really know how to put it other than, like, I don't know where this would go in films that I've watched, but it would definitely be, like, in a top list for sure.
This movie is amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was even better than I remembered. I'm glad you liked it, man. It rules.
Yeah, I didn't really know, like, what I was gonna think.
Yeah.
But as soon as the movie starts, it pretty much, like, becomes like it kind of just takes over your attention. So there's no real wasted time in the film, which I definitely appreciate. Like, and any time that's downtime is filled by levity or, like, comedy, as much as you can have in a situation like this, and I appreciate that when they do that in films.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I was very, very pleased.
I'm glad you liked it, man. And if you like this, Tony Scott made 4 other movies with Denzel.
Nice.
Man on Fire, Deja Vu, Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and his last movie, Unstoppable.
Deja Vu, more like Deja Blue. What's it? Unstoppable?
That's the one with him and Chris Pine on the train. They're basicly on an out of control train, and the title's misleading because it is stopped at the end.
Yeah,
It was stoppable.
Well, we'll have to watch all those films at some point.
Unstoppable, yeah, they're all good. Unstoppable's really good, but Crimson Tide's probably the best.
Unstoppable.
But yeah, man, Tony Scott is a great director.
What? I thought, for some reason, I confused him with the dude that did all the Die Hards. Is that
John McTiernan?
okay? So not even close.
Did you?
No. It was he did
Ridley Scott, his brother.
He did. Tony Scott did. Didn't he do Last Boy Scout?
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that's why I confused it, because I thought that The Last Boy Scout was essentially fucking a Lethal Weapon movie.
Yeah, he did Last Boy Scout.
Another great film.
He did True Romance. Yeah, Last Boy Scout's pretty
Watch
good,
our
man.
previous episode on it. Tony Scott.
Gone too soon, sadly.
Yeah. I think we actually talked about that in the Last Boy Scout thing, where we talked about how he had passed away, and it was sucked because at the time I didn't know what else he had done, but I was just like, if he had done anything else like this, like,
He did The Fan, which we definitely need to watch because that's one of the dumbest movies ever. It's like,
what's that?
it has Wesley Snipes is like a star baseball player, like Barry Bonds, and Robert De Niro is like an obsessed fan.
Okay, I think I've heard of this.
It's really bad, but in a
good
so
way.
bad as good way. But yeah, he makes like very macho, masculine movies, and like it doesn't get much more testosterone than Crimson Tide.
To me, it's like, I think like before, like when we first started doing this podcast, I was like, I hate action films, but I think I don't hate action films. I think I like action films that have something to them that I like, like.
Yeah, and that's why this isn't just an action movie. It's it's a drama thriller, but like there are.
This could be a.
It's deep.
It could be a book if like it isn't already one. It's essentially, I mean, Tom Clancy, I'm sure, has written this before, but it's like
there's actual ideas behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes you think
you never know how close you come to annihilation.
But I think it's about an hour into this movie, like the halfway point, where basically Denzel he fights back for the first time, and you have Denzel and Gene Hackman like screaming at each other.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude.
When Gene Hackman first like goes off on him, it's probably like one of the most scary things I've ever seen in a film. Because you don't expect it, because it's like
you can tell
like Santa Claus yells. He was like so nice and stuff, and then he's just like.
But you can tell he has like something simmering underneath, and then it finally boils over. But it's like two of the best actors of the last 50 years, like going toe to toe with each other.
I was like, when they would act across each other, everybody else was just like, shut the fuck up and stop talking. But we can't dog on the act. Obviously, like the other actors are great. I mean, we got Tony Soprano's in this film.
Yeah, James Gandolfini. Speaking of scary,
as himself, he essentially just plays Tony Soprano in this film.
He's so scary in this movie. And Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah,
basically the third lead in this movie.
Viggo Mortensen, the guy that I always confuse for the dude that played Rick. I always think that's kind of Lincoln.
He scratched me with his beardy beard.
Speaking of which, what's Viggo Mortensen and those dudes doing? I wonder right now. Maybe they're making a twins movie. So the three most powerful men in the world: the President of the United States, the President of the Russian Republic, and the captain of a U.S. nuclear missile submarine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, not anymore.
But the Russian leader was played by Daniel von Bargen.
Yes.
Who he's been in a million things like in the 90s.
Yeah, I was trying to remember like what he was in, but he had that face, or had the face that I was just like, dude, I know this guy's. I've seen this guy in a bunch of stuff, but I can't remember.
He has a big part in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But I mainly think of him, he's George's boss in Seinfeld.
That's right, yeah.
Kruger.
Yeah.
He's so funny in that show. Like the worst, the boss that doesn't give a crap about his job.
He's like, yeah, whatever, fuck off. It's like, cool.
He's like the one employee that's worse than George.
Yeah. He just lets him do whatever he wants. Get away with whatever. That's like the perfect boss. That's a perfect crime, boys.
My favorite line is he's like, I was up all night looking at the company's books. I saw a lot of red or black, whatever the bad one is. I don't know.
It's like... he's like admitting he's essentially worthless.
But I was hoping like he'd come back at some point, but it's like, nope, he's just in the opening footage. And that's it.
Yeah, it was weird. I guess they just shot that opening footage with him, and because he's such like a charismatic person, especially like, I mean, just in that opening footage, it was like, holy shit. But he plays a character called Vladimir, not Putin, but Vladimir Poroshenko.
Yeah.
Which I was like, is he Worf's brother?
Yeah.
But I thought that was weird because it kind of like, it was like in this movie, Russia is like invading another country. So it's like what was happening with Ukraine. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Ooh.
I was like, okay. But you know what I mean? It was that kind of a deal where I was just like, damn, dude.
But that's why the true enemy in the nuclear era is war itself.
Do you know the enemy? That fucking soul. It's like, what?
So I think almost every aspect of this movie is good, including the script, which, did you know Tarantino did a pass?
Excluding the script. He did a pass? Mm-hmm. He was like, no.
He did a pass on the script. And I bet you
as far as like looking over it or whatever.
Yeah, like a rewrite, basically.
Yeah.
And you can totally tell because there's a few scenes where characters like talk about movies and comic books.
Yeah. The sub's just a foot. It's like...
It's like the Monty Python foot.
I actually have a note later where I was talking about how like it just says like how tight this script is, and like they followed it to the letter, it seems like. It's just good stuff. In fact, great stuff.
The script is great. The line about the condom, it's like that stuck with me all my whole life for whatever reason. Like, dude, it's good stuff.
I will say at the beginning of this film, there's a magician that performs a trick, and a dog sees it, and he's like, "Whoa!" Did you see that?
No, I didn't notice that. That's awesome.
He's like, "Woo!" The dog's like,
always good to get an animal like take.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The dog's like. Or wait, why would the dog be applauding the trick himself? He's like, yeah, I watched it. So Gene Hackman's got a fondness for cigars in the beginning of this film. And he gives a cigar to Denzel Washington, and they both smoke it, and he like passes a test. But he's like, don't like it too much because these things are more expensive than drugs. I was like, I agree.
Yeah. I'm sure that was a Tony Scott touch because they're smoking Monte Cristos,
nice.
Which is what Tony Scott smoked all day, every day. Like on the set, he would just like chain smoke cigars.
Like smoking a cigar. So Gene Hackman says, yeah, horses are fascinating animals, dumb as fence posts, but very intuitive. In that way, they're not too different from high school girls. They may not have a brain in their head, but they do know all the boys want to fuck them. And I'm like, so horses are stupid, but they think high school boys want to fuck them? Like, what?
Gene Hackman's so good in this
movie.
Oh, yeah. It made me think, like, they got his name wrong because he's not a Hackman.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I mean, the movies we've seen him in so far, he's, like, by far... If Denzel wasn't in this film, I'd say he was the best, but to me, like, they're both equal in this film.
Yeah. If you compare his character in this with, like, Hoosiers, like the kindly coach, they could not be more different.
The kindly coach.
He's a kindly coach.
But in Hoosiers, he's, like, obviously, like, Dennis Hopper is awesome in that, but, like, he steals the show. Yeah. And it's, like, same thing. I mean, Superman, it's, like, anything he's in, it's just, like, he has that voice, too. It's, like, we need to fucking watch more Gene Hackman films.
He's one of the best ever.
One of the best. So, got a Jack Russell named Bear. He brings his dog with him everywhere. It reminded me of, like, Enterprise where the captain brings Portos, I think. Like, his little beagle with him on the ship. I always like that.
The one scene at the beginning where they're all boarding the ship, like, and they're standing out in the extreme
rain. Yeah.
It's like, that's a Tony Scott, like, his movies are so extreme, so it's like the hardest monsoon ever imaginable. Yeah. Like, there's nothing subtle.
Yeah. Yeah, the rain's coming down.
Like dogs.
Hardcore.
Cats and dogs.
There was a dog, and the dog was in the rain. So there's a part where they're all talking on the sub, and there's VHS tapes in the background. I could make out 2 of them. Could you make out any of them?
I made out a bunch more.
Okay.
I'm glad you noticed that because I definitely couldn't talk about it.
Well, they were so blurry, so I'm sure you probably could. I was able to make out Cliffhanger, and I think Twister.
It was hard to tell.
Yeah,
so
Cliffhanger and Twister, I think.
Let me blow your mind.
Let me blow you up.
Cliffhanger with Stallone.
Yeah.
The Fugitive, Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Last Action Hero with Arnold. Red Scorpion, starring Dolph Lundgren.
So it's like The Expendables.
Yeah, like, what do you think these dudes thought when The Expendables came out? They were like, whoa!
Yeah.
Code of Silence. And then The Dark Half, which is George Romero.
Nice.
Yeah. Quite a VHS collection on the sub.
Yeah. And Twister with Helen Hunt, right?
I didn't catch Twister, so...
You're going to catch it.
You got me.
Continued dual scene stealing by Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington. So... They talk about philosophy here. And he says, the purpose of war is to serve a political end, but the true nature of war is to serve itself. And Gene Hackman essentially is like, I'm impressed, like, do you agree that, like, ignore everything except the destruction of the enemy? He says, I agree that's what, like, he was trying to say, but I don't agree with that. Like, the true enemy can't be destroyed. And he's like, okay, well, what do you think? And he's like, in my humble opinion, in nuclear war, like in the nuclear era, the true enemy itself is actually like war itself. And it's like Gene Hackman's like isn't laughing at that point because like everybody's thinking about it and they're like, shit. Because it's true, but it's also like he has to confront the fact that, like, you know, he's such a hardened, no-nonsense dude that, like, you know, he's ready to do what he has to do and do his orders. But he has to stop and think that, like, maybe that's not...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's also seeing that Denzel has a different philosophy than he does.
Yep.
And it's like, this is the first time you kind of see, like, maybe there might be something that'll happen here.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the start, like, Gene Hackman is, like, testing him or, like, you know, scrutinizing him, basically. Because Denzel, in this movie, he basically plays, like, the perfect man.
Yeah.
He's, like, super smart, well-educated, like, family man, highly decorated, like, he's basically, like, perfect.
Right.
And I think Gene Hackman, like, resents him.
Like, Gene Hackman resents his character, not, like...
Yeah, Denzel Washington.
He's like, fuck you! He's like, I want to see your ass try to beat Superman. This is bullshit. But no, I know what you mean, yeah. So then there's, like, a fire in the galley, and it literally comes out of nowhere.
So
it's
that's one nitpick, like...
it's like Kane arrives, and he's like...
Because, like, they're just starting out, like, the mission's just starting,
right.
And it's, like, the montage of, like, okay, here we go, and then instantly, like...
Yeah!
It was like...
And it doesn't... I don't even understand what happened. It was, like, an instant fire happens. And,
that was comical.
Yeah. And then, like, they do a drill after that, and he's, like, Denzel's pissed about it. And he's essentially, like, you know... That's the best time I feel like you should even run a drill, because it gets people used to the tense nature of acting under pressure and stuff like that. And
that's also at the heart of this movie is, like, different styles of leadership,
right,
which are effective.
Yeah.
Like, is a kick in the butt better than, like, a helping hand, like a praise, you know?
Right.
That's where they differ on the philosophy.
Right, because you see throughout the film, like, Denzel Washington, like, he talks to people. There's a part where he talks to some dude about, they got into a fight over, like, Kirby versus, like, Mobius era Silver Surfer. And, like...
The scene that Tarantino
he
wrote.
kind of, like, bonds with that guy because he's, like, agrees with him, or he says one thing or whatever, and he's just like, everybody knows this is the true way or whatever. And but he's, like, nice about it and stuff, like, to a degree.
Yep.
Whereas, like, yeah, like, later on in the film, he's like, I think the crew needs, like, you know, they're kind of on edge. They need, like, some... And he's like, oh, okay. And he's, like, happy. And then when he picks up the phone, he's like, anybody that doesn't want to fucking be here can just get the fuck off the boat. You know, I've been informed by the XO that you guys are...
The morale is...
down in the dumps. The morale is low. And it's like... we're about... I don't think you fucking understand that we're going to possibly launch a fucking nuke. And I was like... And you could see Denzel was, like, pissed. He's just like...
But that's the cool thing about this movie is, like, one could argue that both of them are right in their own way. So
it really just depends on, like, what the results are.
Yeah.
Because you could do one or the other and get horrible results or great results. It just depends also on what kind of men you have around you. So,
one other nitpick is Hans Zimmer did the score for this movie, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But then he self-plagiarized with The Rock, because it's, like, the exact same score.
Oh,
it's
really?
like, dude, come on. It's like he wasn't even
I didn't know that. I haven't watched The Rock in, like, forever, so I didn't even know. It's weird. I mean, I guess it's not weird, but, like, they go with, like, a very Russian... Like,
that was cool.
The song is, like... because
the male choir.
Yeah, they do it, like essentially, like... Obviously, they're on, like, a U.S. sub... But all the music soundtrack that's being played is all, like, Russian sounding.
Yeah, that was a cool choice.
It's like, you would think, like, why aren't they playing, like, patriotic stuff? But it's like they do that to, like, have, like, a haunting over thing, like, hey, by the way, this is the enemy, and, like, you're under pressure all the time kind of stuff. But like you said, I didn't know that. How did they use the same music in The Rock? That's weird.
Not the singing stuff, but like that's
weird.
Like the other part of the score.
But it's like it all sounds very Russian to me. Like as far as like, yeah, that's pretty lazy. But it's not really, I guess, a knock.
But Hans Zimmer pumps out like 100 scores every year.
That's like John Williams.
Yeah.
And like Danny Elfman.
Some are bound to sound
their
similar.
Stuff will sound the same sometimes, like you said.
Yep.
So they go below and see a man die. He died of the fire. And Gene Hackman takes him into the fucking back, and he's just like, dude, like, you know, you can't be questioning me in front of other people. Like, you can, you know, now if you want, but like, he's like, by the way, that man died because he was 300 pounds, not because of the fire. And you can also see Denzel's kind of like, fuck you. I mean, everything at this point is just building on top of everything. And now they're at DEFCON 3. So, this is when things are really starting to ratchet up. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like, essentially like, we're like, that's where he talks to me. He's like, we're at DEFCON 3, war's imminent, you motherfuckers. Like, it's like, damn.
Yeah. This is for real.
There's a tense scene where they're authenticating the strike command for the nuke. And there's this like key ring that has like 50 keys on it, and I was just like, is this guy a janitor? He's like, another thing in this film that like, I don't know what they did to make it look like this, but like everybody must have been like slathered in like fucking petroleum jelly or something.
Everyone's soaked with sweat the entire movie.
And it's like, it's that glimmer. It's not just like, there are some dudes that do have beads of sweat on them, but there are other people like Gene Hackman. He has a complete, like, he's always, you know what I mean? Everybody's like glistening. I don't know. That's kind of a weird note. Two dudes yelling at each other. No shit.
That's probably my favorite scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. Basically, when Hackman explodes in front of his men and they scream at each other.
He explodes. He turns into like one of the dudes from Big Trouble in Little China. He's like, yeah, it's essentially,
this is a mutiny.
Yeah, he's like, we have rules that are not open to interpretation. Personal intuition, gut feelings, hairs on the back of your neck, little angels or demons sitting on your shoulder. They contain no obligatory, and he's like, Captain, and he tries to like interrupt him and be like, he's like, I've made a decision. I'm captain of this boat. Now shut the fuck up! And it's like, he says that in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And like,
it's like dad just hit mom.
Yeah. Everybody's like, and fucking, you can almost see like Denzel Washington, like his face is like, he's like tearing up almost with like tears of anger or something. Cause he's just like,
he becomes super intense.
He's shocked. Like, what just happened? And then this is when he's just like, give me the keys, and you know, I'm taking, you know, and
that's so good.
That's when he's just like, no, we don't know what the message is and stuff like that if it got cut off. Because essentially what happens is they send up like this little like buoy to check like the message, and it gets like the tether gets like snapped, so they only get like a little bit of the message that says missile and it's like cut off, and they have no clue what it says. It could say missile strike is go still, or missile strike is canceled, or like the Russians have struck first, that kind of stuff. So they're blind. And then that
you received a new message.
Yeah.
No, that's a message fragment. It's meaningless.
Yeah, because he's like, what do you think about this? And he's like, what do you think about this? It doesn't say anything. And he's like laughing about it. You know, it's kind of like they're like, you know, a little bit of brevity, and then that's when it launches into like, essentially everybody kind of takes like Denzel's side for a bit, because they're like, you know, we can't,
except for Gandolfini.
Except for Gandalf. Except because they can't like, because he was trying to just take him, like get someone else to verify it, and he's like, regardless of if you were wrong or right, that's wrong of the captain to get just some random other person to verify.
Goes against
the procedure. Yeah. And so they take him below, and I was like, so it's treason then.
Nice.
And he was like, so then he's like, once everything's kind of calmed down, he like thanks Cobb, and he's like, thank you, fuck you. And I was like, damn, dude.
I thank you anyway.
Yeah. But he's essentially like, thanks for taking my side. And he's like, I'm not on your side. I just, what he would try to do, even though I'm his friend, was not right. Like, so they blow up like another sub and they're all like, woo! Like, cheering and stuff. Because there's, on top of them not knowing whether or not to launch, they're also fighting like a fucking other sub. It's like, if
and
things
to me, like,
get more...
just ratchet up the tension even more. To me, that's like the least interesting part of this movie. Like the actors like conflicting, or not the characters conflicting.
The actors are like
even more exciting than
should I act or not?
launching torpedoes and shit like that. So
yeah, like it's funny that you say that because like I was thinking that same thing. I was kind of like, it's like an extra thing I guess they put in the film, but the film is so good without it.
It's the obligatory submarine antics.
Yeah, it was like the part of the film I was just like, this is not interesting all that much.
I watched Siskel and Ebert review, and they both really liked it, but they were like
the movie or whatever. Yeah.
They're like, that's the one thing about submarine movies. Like, no matter how you show it, it's just like a murky subfloat. Like, okay, it's not that.
Well, they're also like usually so deep in the fucking ocean. It's like where are we gonna fucking dig our subs to the ocean?
Send them out to the sea.
So we've got water comes in and everybody's like slipping and sliding everywhere. And
the obligatory flooding scene.
Then we've got another mutiny, this time against Denzel. It's the reverse. He's a triple agent. So we got another mutiny. All thanks to... This is pretty much set in place thanks to fucking Mr. Sopranos himself.
So
Gandolfini!
What'd you think of him in this movie?
I mean, I think he's great in everything I've seen him in. He just... So far, I've only seen him in a couple things, and he essentially plays Tony Soprano in this, too.
Yeah, but you can tell, like, this guy's got bad news written all over him by the way he treats that soldier in the beginning when they're on the bus.
Yeah, and it's not like... It's not played for laughs or like it's a joke. It's like he treats this one dude, the dude that ends up dying, like shit because he's overweight. Yeah. But it's like... he's like making him do all this shit. It like didn't even matter. It's like it's so stupid.
Oh, how you doing? Good. Do not address me like that.
It's like what? He's like, I'm like, you asked me a question. But yeah, it's like I don't know.
He's super scary to me in this. Yeah. You're just waiting for him to like mess everything up. Basically.
I don't think I've ever seen him play a character where he was like not an asshole. Like he almost always plays like an asshole character. But I've only seen him in this and The Sopranos, so...
He's in True Romance, also directed by Tony Scott, and he plays a hitman, and it's like even darker than this and Sopranos. Like, dude, come on.
Sith Gandolfini.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it didn't help that I had seen Sopranos, and I saw this, and I was just like, okay, this guy's probably not going to be like a nice person. He also has that like... look to him that like when he's smiling you're like, this guy's about to kill someone.
Yeah, like, dude, the devil's like smiling at me right now.
He's like but like Viggo Mortensen's awesome in this too.
Yeah, he's great.
He's always great in everything. We were kind of talking about like like what I wonder what he's been up to and stuff. I'm sure he's been in a bunch of stuff, but for me,
he was the starring in Oscar-winning movies. Green Book, the greatest movie to ever win Oscar Gold. Did you see that?
No.
Me neither.
Yeah, that movie somehow won over Black Klansman.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the year for some weird picks, but I guess the Oscars.
That's every
like
year.
That. Especially that year, because I felt like it was more so like they felt like they had to give it to him because of what it was specifically. But for me, he's best well known as obviously what's his name. Aragorn, right?
Yeah.
Or Aragorn, or I forget what it is, but like he's in Lord of the Rings. And he's also in that movie where like he walks across like the apocalyptic wastelands, right? Or something.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Because they had another one called like the Book of Eli that like some other dude was in. It was kind of the same shit.
He was in a movie that came out this year that he blew me away. 13 Lives.
He was like, boom!
Which is about the rescue from the boys who were trapped in that cave in Thailand.
Okay, yeah.
And him and Colin Farrell are like these two, like the best divers in the world, basically.
Oh, wow.
And they volunteer to go over there and help. And they're British. And like, I totally believed both of them as like these badass British dudes who were like, They were so good, but that was a very, very good movie.
Yeah.
Directed by Ron Howard.
Based on a real story.
Yeah, which was, speaking of intense, holy crap, man.
Whoa, this is tense.
Now this is pod racing.
Now this is podcasting. Yeah, Viggo Mortensen, highly recommended. You know, you gotta watch out. He'll fucking Strider your ass.
He's a Strider. He's
Are you gonna fucking become the fucking Return of the King, me?
And he almost gets his head blown off by Gene Hackman in this movie.
Reforge that damn sword. Yeah, speaking of which, Jesus Christ, man. Here's another nerd thing in this film. Like you said, this must have been what's it called? Not a Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman's like, Star Trek for life. Mm-hmm. He might be, I don't know. But Quentin Tarantino, they have a thing where he gives the radio dude like a pep talk, and he's like, you know, you ever watch Star Trek? You know, Scotty is, you know, he needs to give him the.
You're Scotty,
shit,
and I need more power.
Right. Speaking of which, I just watched the Next Generation episode last night where like they find Scotty in the buffer, and like he comes back, and I think that's probably the best time they've had somebody from the original come back, except for when they had Spock come back. Mm-hmm. It was.
You mean it wasn't great when Bones came back in the pilot episode?
And he's like 1,000 years old looking. It's like, how the fuck is this guy still alive? And then, well, the weird thing is in the Scotty episode, they say he's like Beverly Crusher's like, oh, you're pretty good for a guy that's 150 or something. And I'm like, so I guess dudes just live a lot longer in Star Trek.
Well, wasn't he trapped in like a timeless state though, or was he actually that old? I don't remember.
Actually, yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. Yeah, he was trapped in that thing, but it's like, were they? I guess you're right. Maybe they were counting the years that he was in that, or because when she was doing the medical thing,
he did age in real life, like the actor.
Yeah. Well, it's like I would have been like, so are you talking about like my age, like as you know, Scotty's like my like physical age, or are you talking about like you're adding when I went in there to the years I was in stasis? Because it's like. Yeah, I didn't age while I was in there, so you can't really count those years. Never thought about that. But now that I have, my mind is blown. So we got another mutiny happening. This time against Gene Hackman, because Denzel's kind of made friends with these like lowly dudes, and they're kind of like on his side and stuff. Because everybody's like not really they're starting to doubt, and like to me, it's like once you get that little bit of doubt, it's like erring on the side of caution when it comes to starting a nuclear Armageddon. It's like, but speaking of, Viggo Mortensen, he can't launch the missiles. You know, he's thinking about his kids and stuff like that and his family. He almost didn't join the rebellion or the thing with Gene Hackman but like he got talked into it with his assholes, and they were like, he's like, that's why I don't want to, you know, because I'm thinking about my kids.
Yeah, I like how you said, I'd rather go down myself than get this wrong.
Right.
Like, he'd rather die than make the wrong decision. Like, dude, that's pretty
But
heroic.
he won't open the safe. But Gene Hackman puts a fucking gun to his head.
This scene is amazing. First of all, because like the lighting, the colors in this movie are like...
It's like red and green.
Yeah. No wonder it's called a crimson tide. But when Hackman like goes to 11, he's like, open the safe! I'm gonna count to 3 and blow your head off.
Yeah,
I'm
gonna blow your fucking head off. And then I was just like, in my note, I was like, what? That wouldn't make any sense if he's the only one that knows. And then he thinks that he's like,
and like there's a nerdlinger standing right next to him. This guy's like,
yeah, because he's like, shit, it does me no good to kill you. You're the only one who knows the combination. And then he's just like, but Petty Officer Hilliard doesn't know the combination. Millions of lives are at stake here, Peter. Don't make a dumb decision. And he like puts it up to this dude's head, and the dude's like, he instantly turns into like
Jello,
a fucking mummy victim. He's like, what the fuck? But like, you know what I mean? Like, the guy is so scared he instantly like fucking he becomes.
But even Hackman, like his hand is shaking at this point
because he can't wait to kill him.
He's got so much bloodlust.
Yeah, we're fucking kill this asshole. But like, he's just so. And when that happens, it's like everybody's like, maybe this fucking guy shouldn't be in charge, because not that he's not a good commander, but like he's reached a
you
point
become
where
so unhinged.
Yeah, he's to the point where he's like, no logical stuff will like sway him from just doing what he was told to do, and it's like, or what he thinks he was told to do. So he unlocks the safe because he doesn't want to get this guy fucking killed. So then we have like another mutiny back and forth, and essentially it's a standoff at the end here because like everybody, like the two sides have guns pointed at each other, and they finally get the radio working. And in the meantime, they're like,
which the dude fixing the radio, his assistant was Ryan Phillippe. I noticed. It's like, dude.
Oh, nice.
From MacGruber.
But like, I think like while they're sitting there and waiting, there's another freaking awesome exchange between Hackman and Denzel, where he's like, speaking of horses, because earlier in the film they talk about like, he's like, what do you like to do? You know, do you like to this or that? And he's like, well, my passion or like my thing I like to do all my off time is like ride horses and stuff. And he's like, okay, I never really mess with horses, but like, you know, that's what he talks about, like this or that and stuff. And he's smoking cigars. But he's like, speaking of horses, did you ever see the Lipizar stallions? And like Denzel's like, what? And he's like, from Portugal. You know, they're the most highly trained horses in the world. They're all white. And he says, yes, sir. And he's like, you're aware that they're all white, or you've seen them? And he's like, yeah, I've seen them. And I was aware that they're all white, but they're not from Portugal. They're from Spain, and at birth, they're not white. They're black. And he says, I didn't know about that, but they are from Portugal. And they both like kind of laugh a little bit. And it's like they both kind of like have this like reprieve where they're kind of like friends a little bit again.
Because at that point,
there's nothing else to do. Yeah, there's no conflict where it's like, so regardless of what comes down, like it's what they're gonna follow. So it's like
that scene bothers me a tiny bit because, like, throughout the movie, there's obviously tension between Gene Hackman and Denzel, but like, you think maybe there's a racial aspect to it, but it's never addressed until this scene.
Yeah,
which I don't know if that was really necessary. Like, he basically, you know, plays the race card,
right? Which is weird. Like, yeah, I guess I didn't really even think about that, but I guess if you think of it like that, it's kind of like weird.
I mean, it's a cool line because Denzel throws it back in his face, which is awesome. But
it makes no sense for that character to meet. I never really felt like that character was racist.
Right. So. I thought maybe it might be underlying.
I didn't even think about that till you like brought that up, but yeah, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, that I think it may have been.
It's like unneeded because like that character. It's not. This wasn't about race. It was about fucking like, you know, two different styles of command and whether or not Denzel was ready for command and whether or not this guy could still do his job without being too like blinded. You know, there were so many things that it was about, but none of it was about Denzel Washington being black and fucking Gene Hackman being white. Like, so I guess I like the exchange, but like not so much the whole part about
just
the black
a little
and
bit
white
too
stuff.
far. I thought didn't need it.
To me, like the thing I liked about that was that I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. So it was one little dig that like they're born here and actually they're born here, you know, like that kind of a thing. And then they have kind of an exchange later on about that as well, where they're both walking to, you know, kind of like laughing and stuff, and it's like
Gene Hackman's like, "You got me," but I was still right about that one. Screw you.
He's like, "Fuck you."
He doesn't really out and out apologize, but
he walks away with his dog. But like essentially, like Gene Hackman, like at the end of this, they're like, you were both right and you were both wrong. Like obviously, like Gene Hackman was fucking way wrong because he, you know, was gonna fire a nuke without like a full confirmation. But he was right in the, you know, he was in charge. I guess like Denzel was right because he waited. You know, it was like essentially they were both right, they were both wrong. But like at the end, like essentially they do the whole like, you know, you will be fucking punished by getting a command, and Gene Hackman gets to retire. Like he's like
slap on the wrist.
Yeah, he was essentially like Gene Hackman was like, I want to, you know, I guess he essentially put up for for Denzel to get any command that he wants next.
Yeah.
Because he's like, dude, you're fucking right. And
That's his
you were
way
great.
of apologizing.
And, like, which, yeah, it's like, to me, that's better than any apology he could have given. But, like, I want to see what the fuck they did to the dude that sent out the fucking message to fucking launch the fucking nuke.
Yeah.
Especially if it came right way after that, wait, this isn't right. Was that like a joke? Like, I'm just going to tell him to fucking launch a nuke. But essentially, like, the core was just like, yeah, like, fucking, you know.
Yeah, it was cool. That judge or whatever was played by Jason Robards, who he's like a legendary actor from a bunch of westerns and stuff back in the day.
Okay.
It was cool to see a little cameo from him.
He was setting up a court. A jag.
And then, like, the Russian score choir kicks in.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this movie kicks so much ass.
And then, like, yeah, they're like, as of January 1996, primary authority and ability to fire nuclear missiles will no longer rest with U.S. submarine commanders. Principal control will reside with the President of the United States, which, why the fuck didn't it? Like, why was it, like, put on this one dude? Like, the President also, like, there's not going to be, like, why would you be like, the fucking control has to be with the commanders? Because then it's like, shit like this happens where they don't get the message because they're underwater. Whereas, like, the President, like, you know, he also has a cabinet of people around him. So,
Well, we'll find out soon.
but
if
I
it
guess
was the
that's
right choice.
Yeah, I guess that's why they
WW3
WWE
coming soon.
World Wrestling Entertainment World War. But yeah, it's a good thing that they changed it. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else to say?
Nope. Love this movie. I give it a 9.95.
Yeah.
I could watch it again right now. It's great. If you haven't seen it, see it.
I agree. Then Matt could watch it again. I'm like, you're watching it right fucking now.
Top Gun from the top again.
Yeah. Whoa. One of the greatest films I've ever seen, acted wise.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. So,
Cool, man.
same. I give it the same. I give it a 9. I give it a 9.95.
Nice.
Put your body in overdrive.
Nobody's perfect down here on Earth, but this movie is near perfect.
Just don't put your body in overdrive like that fat dude did in this movie. And die. I don't even know what the fuck happened. He just like had ketchup on him and then he was like...
He got roasted.
Yeah, he turned into a mummy. So, next week, it is Jackie Chan week.
Whoa!
So we're going to watch
Dude.
the Jackie Chan Adventures.
What's that?
You've never seen that show?
No.
It's a cartoon starring
Nice.
Jackie Chan. Came out like 2000s, I think.
Cool, man.
And the feature presentation is Police Story from 1985.
Whoa.
Whoa!
That's great.
Great
That's
film.
a great choice. You said you aren't the biggest fan of action movies, but you've picked arguably the greatest action movie ever made.
It's because Jackie Chan is awesome. Jackie Chan's the exception to the rule.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It ran for 6 seasons.
Yeah. Show was pretty legit, honestly, from what I remember, but I've never watched the first episode. So.
All right. Sounds good, man.
All I remember from that show is, like, there was a character on the show that was, like, his uncle, and he was like, Jackie, one more thing, like, in every episode. So, I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't suck.
All right.
Yeah, I guess until next time, guys. We'll see ya, and it's going to
Yeah.
be Jackie Chan week.
Should be fun.
Jackie Chan week.
Chan week.
So, yeah. I'll see you guys later. We'll see you guys later. I'm like, I'll see you later. Yeah.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
I said the essential Jeffrey Dahmer. I was like, yeah, dude.
Or anybody else. You got to make up your own mind.
That didn't make... Whatever. I'll just... Do you want to go?
I like how I can see my own page right here. I didn't think about that.
They can see that the fucking monitor's on.
Mike. All right, here we go. It's up to you.